Hi there guys, you are here with Tina's Psychic Readings. Now today I am bringing you another story to tell you what had happened to me years ago. And this is it's very sensitive content. So if you become afraid or you're scared of demons and things like that, please do not watch this video because it may affect some people, right? So it affected me, you know, like I lived it. So this is a possession that happened to myself 14-15 years ago. But at the time, I never, like a lot of people will know me from Facebook and other platforms. But this is before I opened up spiritually. This is before I done cards. This is before, like, I believed in my gift. There was a point where, like, I wanted to open up when I was 20. I was only 20-year-old, I think it was. Sure, I was 20 or I was just turning 21. And I knew someone else spiritual, so I says, how do I open up? Now, this is a question from a lot of people, like, how do I open up? And other mediums can't help you open up. That's one thing that I have noticed. You have to do that work within yourself. Now, psychics can, or other mediums can help you protection, and they can help, like, not train you. They can't train you to open up, but they can help you understand some things, and that's like what I like to do. I like to help people understand so that it can help them on their spiritual journey. But as of like a psychic medium, you can't help someone open up. So like a long time ago, like, I was always frustrated. How come no one can help me? How can no one help me open up? How can no one help me understand how to open up this spiritual gift? What do I do? Where do I start? You know, like this is what every medium psychic goes through to start off with. You know, I'm not saying everyone. Some people can just open up like that. They know what to do, you know, but some people don't. And this is an occurring question that people tend to ask me as well. How do I open up? You know? And it's all to do with your meditations and everything else. But that's not why I'm here today. I'm here to explain the story of what set me back years ago. What held me back. Else I think I'd have been doing this for a lot longer than what I have been. So like, I had a good friend, and I kept being told for years, like, I was a little bit of a skeptic to start off with, because every other psychic medium I went to, they could never read me proper. There was some things that you would take and I would be like, oh yeah, and things. So I was a little bit confused and stuff like that, and I kept being told, you have the gift, Tina, you have the gift, you're really strong, you know, right? And I kept saying to myself, no, I don't, right? And maybe that was me just blocking myself out. Maybe that was me that just didn't want to admit that I had the psychic gift, or the medium gift, you know. So I ended up one day, I says, is there anyone that you could send me to, like classes or anything like that, so that I can go and maybe sit in a circle, you know, like to be able to learn to open up. And I was advised to go to this little place where they were doing like a spiritual circle to help people be able to open up their spiritual gifts and things like that. So I did. I went along. And I was so nervous to go along. I really was so nervous. And I built up the courage to go. And I actually took my ex-partner at the time with me. So he came with me, and just for support, moral support really. So he came to this circle with me, and there was no really any teaching. Like for new beginners, like someone that had just walked in and like for help, you know, like there was not like, this is the rules, this is what you need to stick by, or anything like that. There was no, maybe what I went into wasn't what I should have been in at the time. Maybe it was a more advanced class or whatever I had went into, but it wasn't like, this is what you need to look out for. I never get told any of this stuff. I never get told how to close myself down either after that class or nothing like that. And when you're not used to this kind of work, there was no protection, there was no nothing, you know, like, so when you're not used to this type of work, you can open the doors to things you do not want to open, you know, like to things you do not want to see, you know. But before I went into this class, we had just moved into, we had 2 floors of this house and we stayed up at the top, which was fine, it was okay. But it was a shared house to start, it was up the top, we shared the house with people. And the one down below, we were getting the full house to ourselves, and we would prefer that. Obviously people would prefer that, you know. But we always wondered why nobody wanted to stay downstairs. It was still shared downstairs, but there was only one person and he was never there. And we always wondered, why is he never there? Why does nobody want to stay in that house? But it was a lot nicer than the house above. So when we went in, we were like, wow, it's beautiful in here at the time. Well, I went back, disappointed of what happened to that house when I went back. But it was lovely. It was a lot nicer than the other house, a lot more spacious. We had the house to ourselves. We didn't have to share really anymore because the other man wasn't there. So we were quite happy with that. We were a lot more in rent and things, you know, but we were like, we're quite happy with that. It meant that we didn't have to move like quite far or anything like that. So it was just from there to there. So it was so easy, right? So we had moved into this flat, and I always used to say to my ex-partner, I don't like the feelings in here. There's something not quite right in here. I just don't know what it is. I can't put my finger on it. I don't know why I'm feeling like this. And he used to always say, well, just give it a chance. Give it a chance. We've got a right lovely house here, you know, like it's lovely. It'd be better than where we were. And I says, that's true, you know. So I gave it a go, and obviously I went to this spiritual circle, and as I said, my partner was there with me. And I always remember when I went in here, we started off that we were all sitting in the crowd and we were to do like the meditation, which I didn't even know it was meditation, right? So like it was in the meditation state of mind. So I definitely went into that. I tell you, like I really went into that. Like I was shocked at what I seen and what I felt and everything. It was amazing. I loved it, right? I loved that part, because he says to us in the circle, now close your eyes, and he took us like through like a meditation state of, you would walk through this path and you would walk up this other path, and when you get to the top, one of your loved ones or whoever you want to speak to is going to be sitting there, you know. Go and have a conversation with your loved ones. And I did. I got to the top of there, and straight away my granddad was sitting there, you know, and I remember touching his face and I could feel his beard. I could feel everything about my granddad. It was so nice. So nice. It was a nice experience at that time, you know. And I thought, oh, I really like this. Now I always remember once we came out of that meditation state, he says, right, I'm going to get people up into the crowd and you're going to read people that are there, right? So they were picking people up to go up and do some mediumship and stuff like that. But again, we weren't, I know you can't teach people, but at the time I'm thinking, what do we do? You know, like I was sitting thinking all that kind of stuff, and any normal person would have thought that if you're just new to this, you know. So like I'm sitting and I'm like, how did they get all that information, right? And I'm sitting, but I'm like, I've just sat and connected with my granddad. My granddad's just actually told me that he's fine. You know, my granddad's actually just, I've had a conversation with my granddad here, you know. It was lovely, but at the same time I was still a little bit skeptic. Right, I still had that on my mind. Did I see that, or did I imagine that, you know? So then people were up doing mediumship and stuff like that, and then we were moved to this other group, and we were just to start reading people, you know, like, and I was like, well, I don't know what I'm doing. So I wasn't open fully to be able to like read people then. You know, I was getting everything wrong. I was getting everything wrong. I was just, because I was put in the spot, I was just like, you know, like, so no, I didn't get anything right at that given point, right? But what I can tell you is the experience I had 10 minutes before it was phenomenal, you know, when it came to the spiritual side of things. So that was fine. You know, there was some things that the woman that I was reading, she did say, yes, I can take that, you know, and I'm like, oh my God, where's all this coming from? So there was some things I didn't get right, and there was some things I did get right, right? So that was perfect, that was fine, you know, like, I understand that now, that that's fine, because it's like it's a step-by-step progress to be able to open up and fully be able to do it. So that, back then I just doubted myself, like, oh, I can't do this then, you know, I've got some things wrong, that's it, I can't do it. So I think that's what shut me off. Like, I was like, maybe I don't have the gift, maybe they're just saying I have the gift and I don't have the gift, you know. But I knew I had seen spirit when I was 7. I knew, like, I had seen spirit, like, kind of grown up, but the more I grew up, the more I shut it out. That is what had happened. So the less spirit I was seeing. And so that was fine. And then we never get told how to protect ourselves during that session. We never get told, we never even get told you need to relax, you need to be in a meditate state to be able to read people. So I just felt that it wasn't run properly. Like, this circle wasn't run properly the way that it should have. But that was just my like, that's the way I thought at that time. And even when I sit back and think about it now, it wasn't run properly. You know, like, as if there should have been more rules there. There should have been more details to what we were actually doing, you know, like, we should have been told, you have to do this, you have to do that before you could even join the circle and do the things we're doing, and you need to learn this. You know, there could have been more to it, but there wasn't, and I was just a wee bit confused about that. So I always remember on my way walking home that I did say to my ex-partner at the time, I says, I actually feel positive. I always remember that. I actually did feel positive when I left there at the same time, even though that I was like, well, maybe I'm learning a little bit of things about myself, maybe I'm not spiritual, you know. I just wanted to go and just try and see at the time, you know. And so then we went back to the flat, and everything was fine. But then I never noticed it the first night when I went back. I just felt like a more kind of heavy feeling in there, but I never understood why. I just thought, like every couple goes through their kind of moments, you know, and I thought, well, maybe it's just like tension between us, maybe that's why I'm feeling the way I am, maybe I'm not happy, you know. So I didn't feel happy in there at all, and that was fine and stuff. And then it became more stronger as the days were going on after that. And I used to say to my partner, I don't like it in here, I don't like it in here. And then I started seeing someone standing at the end of the hall, and it was a shadow man, right? But at the time I didn't understand what a shadow man was. And it's a big, tall, in fact, to start off with, I was getting shown a human like standing there, and it changed over time to this big, tall, dark, shadow type, tall hat man, you know. But I couldn't look at it, I didn't want to look at it, you know. Like, every time I went out to the hall, he was there, you know. I knew he was there. And where our room was, the toilet was here, you know, and the hall was away down there, you know. Like, I didn't look down there. If I went to the toilet out of the room, it would be like in and shut the door, so that I didn't have to look behind me. That was the way I lived. And this kind of got stronger and stronger and stronger, as I was saying, guys. So, like, if I was like brushing my teeth, I'd feel this heavy weight pushing me down, and I couldn't get my head back up from the sink and stuff. I couldn't be left in the house on my own, because when I was left in the house on my own, it intimidated me. It was all showing itself. It would come out from the hall, but if my partner was there, it used to stay in the hall. And then once it got my attention and it knew that I knew it was there, it was mostly when my partner was out, it started calming down. But when my partner was there, it was getting worse. It was like really, really bad at one point. And I kept saying to him, like, don't leave me, don't leave me, don't leave me, because I was terrified. Even though I was terrified when my partner was there, I was even more terrified when he wasn't there, because I was like, what if I see this again and I'm in myself? I was terrified. So I became like paranoid, you know, like really, really paranoid, to the point where going for a shower was a challenge, because I didn't want to be in there myself. That's how bad it was, you know. Like, so I always had my partner there just to give me that comfort that I was going to be okay, you know. Like, I started feeling myself going downhill as well, emotionally, physically. Like, a lot of things, like drained a lot, tired a lot. There was a lot of tension between me and my partner at the time. Like, really, really bad at the time. He wasn't really a nice person to start off with, but the tension there was, it got so too much. It really did. It really did. There was so many arguments in that house. And I remember there was this one night that we were supposed to go out, and I says, we were getting ready, and the next minute there was this big argument that just came out of nowhere. It wasn't me, you know, like, it just totally turned, you know, and it ended up he didn't want to come with me. And I was like, right, okay, you know what it's like. You end up just going, well, I'm going, because I've already told everybody I'm going, you know. So, like, I've went out, I've went to the wee pub that I was invited to, and that was fine. And I phoned them, and I phoned my partner, and I says, just to say, I'm sorry, you know, it's just your normal wee chit chat. I come off that phone call, I remember sitting down and not being able to remember a thing after that. I did not remember a thing. And that, I was only in the pub for 20 minutes. And I never drank much. I never had much to drink. And I cannot remember a thing. Now, I always thought someone spiked my drink. I always thought that. I actually went into the pub the next day claiming that somebody spiked my drink. They looked back in the cameras and says, no one spiked my drink. Now, this is something that I've never actually understood until, like, I opened up. And then that's when everything fell into place. That's when I understood everything, because obviously I learnt a lot, you know. And so I can't remember coming home. I cannot remember the whole night. And my partner had found me. We had a little porch bit, so it was like doors, and then it was like big double doors. It was like the old doors like we had, that has like the things that go into the ceiling and the ground. So like, it's like snibs, you know, like it was like that. So it was like big old fashioned doors. That's how we loved the place, you know. It was a really, really nice place to stay. Like, well, look wise, not actually staying there. He thought I never came home. Now, my friend had dropped me off and says I looked fine. She said, you looked fine, but I can't remember coming home. He had came out to the porch to come and look for me because he thought I never came home. And he said he came out into the porch, and he's like, I was like looking upside down. He says I was all twisted and upside down. He says, there is no way a human can get into that state or shape you were in. He says, your neck was twisted, you were upside down, and you were staring through me. When my partner picked me up, I wasn't breathing, and he had to bring me back to life. So I always remember him shaking me and me not being able to control my body. My body was limp. And yes, people will say that's alcohol, but that's not, until I get more into the story, and you will know the story. You know, I didn't know what to think back then. I felt like, what the hell? What happened? Like, it's so horrible when you don't know what's happened to you. Like, and like, some people have like when you do have too much to drink, you know, and you do forget things, you know. But I knew I never drank a lot. I never drank a lot for me to be in that state. So he says he managed to get me inside. He said I was fine. He says the next minute you just stood up and you were fine and you were having a conversation with me. He said, but you looked different. Your eyes weren't the same. You weren't the same. He said, but I just thought it was just a drink. That's what he thought. He said, I just thought maybe she's just a little bit different. She's came home a little bit different, you know. So he sat me in the kitchen to give me a glass of water. And we had like a side table where it was just like a wee dining table for two. And he was sitting on the other side and I was sitting here, but the door was at the back of him. So I was sitting, and he says we two were having a conversation. I'm not a violent person. I'm not a horrible person. But he says the next minute, like, I got up on the table with my fist like clenched on the table. He says, and I had reached up right over to him. And he says, your eyes, I've never ever seen it. Your eyes. He couldn't describe what was up with my eyes. He could not describe that. So to me, I kind of get it, because like, I now know how all of this kind of thing works now, you know, like, so I can imagine. That's the only thing I can do, is I can imagine what my eyes would have been like. But he says all the veins in my face had popped out, my neck had all popped out. He said, and I was shouting at him over the table where all my veins had all popped. He's like, I've never seen anything like that in my life. I said, yes, we've had our arguments, Tina. I've never ever seen your veins pop like that. He says, I've never seen MD's veins pop like that, Tina. Like I didn't know what he was meaning, like, because I can't remember. Like, I can't remember any of it. And he says, because of that, I've walked out the kitchen, because I was like, I'm not putting up with that, you know. So he's turned his back, he's walked out the kitchen, and the minute he shut the kitchen, he heard plates smashing. Oh, the plate smashing. The minute he heard the plate smashing, he opened the door straight away. And he said, I was still sitting in the same spot, staring at him, smiling. He says, I've never seen a smile like that. So he was like, what the fuck, right? So he says, I've cleaned up the plates. He said, you were still sitting, staring at the door, smiling. So that was in the kitchen moment. He says, then you've come out of there, you've went to the toilet, and I've came in, you've been lying on the toilet floor. So he said, so I've just picked you up. He says, the minute I picked you up, you've then stood right in front of me. He says, I have never ever put up with strength of a woman like that. He says, no woman could have that strength, Tina. No woman could have that strength. He says, to the point where, because there's a lot more to story to him than what I would like to share, but he's just mentioned he never ever put up with strength like that of a woman before. He says, one minute you would have all this strength. He said next minute you would just fall to the floor, like limp. You couldn't move, you couldn't speak. It was like you were drowsy, you know, like you couldn't, he said, it was like one minute not okay, next minute strength, next minute not, you know, like he said, I didn't know what was going to happen next. That was the way that the story was kind of going. So he says, I managed to get you into the room to go to sleep and things like that. And I was lying on the bed, and he says that I just sat up, but I didn't sit up normal. He says your back had an arch like that. He says your head was hanging. Your arms weren't holding you up. He says you sat like that for an hour. He said to the point where I was going to like the toilet and coming back to check on you. He says and your back was still arched. He says but your bum was on the bed. So my legs were straight, my bum, but my back was like that, right? He says no way a human could sit in that position for as long as you did. Never. He says, so I've just done my thing, just left you to it. I don't think he wanted to come anywhere near me, to be quite fair. So, like he says, I just let you do your thing. He says, then eventually you stood up. He says you went to the middle of the room. He says you started running around in circles. He said, but you were dragging your head. He says, again, how the fuck, right? Like, how could you be dragging your head like that and running around in circles? He said it also went on for another hour, and you running around in circles. He said you ran round in circles for an hour, then you just fell in the middle of that circle. I died that night. I died that night because I remember seeing my granddad. My partner says to me that, ex-partner, sorry, says to me that I was foaming out my mouth, I was shaking, and he had to resuscitate me to bring me back to life. Now this is the part that I remember. I remember seeing a big, bright, white light. And it was so far away though, like I remember lying in, it was so far away, and I remember looking up at him and I'm like, Granda, because I call him Granda. I don't call him Grandad, I called him Granda. And he went, it's not your time yet. I says, I want to go, because I remember telling him I want to come with you. I don't want to be here, I want to come with you. He said, it's not your time to go, get back. My granddad sent me back. Said it wasn't my time to go yet. And I remember waking up. Now this strength, and then no strength, and then strength, and then no strength, happened all night. I woke up the next morning. I didn't make my work. I never went to work or nothing like that, so I had woke up with my boss phoning me at the time. And I just cried because I stood up to get out of my bed and I couldn't feel my legs, I couldn't feel my body, and I fell to the floor. And I was crying because my boss was on the phone to me, you know, like, why are you not in work, and all that kind of stuff, you know, like, so I was, what happened, I was so distraughted. I was like, oh my goodness, what happened, you know. So, like, it was quite intimidating. Like at that time, I just thought, well, obviously I couldn't remember. So I just woke up and went, maybe I just had too much to drink or something happened last night because that's no normal. I only had a vodka and coke. You know, like, that's all I could remember at that time for when I can't remember anything. You know, so like I was like, I must have been spiked, something's happened to me last night. So like I didn't think it was a spirit or nothing like that. I never thought anything like anything in that way. I just automatically thought somebody spiked my drink, you know. So that was that was what I kind of stuck to. So it was that bad that I got a taxi to the pub that I was in, and I went in, and she went, oh, when she looked at me, and I was like, I was crying and everything. I was at the bar and I was like, someone spiked me last night, someone spiked me, because I can't remember a thing. I cannot remember a thing. And she went, no one spiked you. And I was like, right, okay, like, well, how do you know? You know, like, I felt like nobody believed me. My boss didn't believe me either. He didn't believe me either, you know, like, I felt so alone. I felt so alone. I felt violated. I went, I'm never drinking again. I'm never touching another drink of alcohol again, because I thought it was me, you know, like I really, really did. And so then I had went back home, and obviously I wasn't working that day, and went back home, and then that's when the activity started getting worse and worse and worse. Like, I remember hanging out the window, and it was old weighted windows, and I put my head out because somebody had shouted something out in the street, or it was something silly like that, and I done that and looked out, and the minute I put my head in, and just as well I pulled my head in when I did, the weighted window just went doof and slammed. I was like, no way, no way. Now, I do think that this entity was attached to my partner. I really do. Because, like, at the time when we stayed up the top flat, he had went up to the loft, and he brought down newspapers, and it was dated, like, was it 1870 odds? You know, like, it was a long, long time ago. I was like, wow, I cannot believe, like, I'm looking at these papers. He also brought down a little boy's pair of trousers, school trousers, and there was other wee things, you know, like, there was other little things that he brought down from the loft. So to me, like, I thought, well, I know to this day now that it was attached to my partner. It wasn't attached to me. I was vulnerable at that time, you know, like, I had just opened up and everything else, you know. I didn't know how to deal with my spiritual side of things, and it was the only way to get back at him. So the window had, like, nearly hit me. And then after that, like, anytime that window was up, the whole window would be, like, rattling all the way down, you know, like, it is loads of wee things that would happen. Like, we would be lying in our bed and we would hear things from the other side of the house and stuff, and at that time I was terrified. I didn't want to be able to have to deal with that. And every time I went out to the hall, he was standing there, he was staring at me, you know, like, I didn't want to go down that side of the I didn't want to go down that side anymore of the house anymore. I wanted to stay in the bedroom. I didn't come out the bedroom. And then my partner used to obviously have to go to work, so, like, my days off, I was in there on my own, and I was terrified to stay there. I didn't want to stay there anymore, because as I said, I was confused, like, to the point where I wasn't sleeping. Like, I was paranoid. I was just terrified in general, because the activity, as I said, after that just got worse and worse and worse after that. Our moods were totally different. We were different. We weren't the same anymore, to the point where I was in the corner rocking back and forth crying. I don't want to stay here anymore. I don't want to stay here anymore. I can't stay here. So that night, we packed our stuff and moved back upstairs, and told the landlord, we've moved back into our old room, we don't like that house. So we had moved back up, obviously. And I was like, so it was a relief. It felt like a relief at the time. That night, now, bear in mind, there was no one downstairs, because I made sure I went down and checked. Because I was like, what the fuck? Sorry for my language. But we could hear banging as if there was work getting done downstairs. But there was no one down underneath that again, and there was no one in that house. So we could hear banging and stuff like that as if there was getting work done in the house, and we're like, okay, right, well, that might just be coming for someone else. So I was making these little excuses because I was trying to get away from it, you know, like I didn't want to think about it anymore. I wanted to go on with a normal life. And then the night after that, we could hear sawing, like someone sawing something downstairs. And I was like, oh, like, can you hear that? And he's like, oh, aye, I can hear that. So then he went a wee back down again, because we still had the keys. He went a wee back down again. He's like, Tina, no one's there. No one's there. And I went, oh, God. Every night after I stayed in that house, I would have dreams of this red man that looked like the devil. Wasn't the devil though. He wasn't the devil, but he looked like the devil. He used to be running up the stairs as if he was coming to get me all the time. But again, like, I'm thinking to myself, okay, I'm just having bad dreams. I've just been traumatised with that house. I'm just having bad dreams, you know. To the point again, I didn't really want to sleep, you know. So like, but then I didn't know that it was trying to intimidate me. It wanted me to go. It didn't want me being there. And I don't know if it was because I had opened up, you know, like I didn't know if it thought intimidated by me at the time, because I didn't know what I was dealing with back then. So I was like, well, maybe it's just me. Maybe it's just me and my thoughts, you know. So it cut a long story short, it didn't work out with me and my partner, and I had moved out. Finally found myself a little flat and moved in there myself. And I was lying in my bed, and it was horrible, absolutely horrible. And I'm lying in my bed, and I was awake. And the red man was standing at the bottom of my bed. He changed my full room to red, and he changed it to furniture that wasn't mine, right? I could see it all. I was like, oh my God. I couldn't move though. I couldn't move, but I could see all. It was all different. Now he was staring at me, and I was so scared. I was terrified until he started climbing on my bed. And he was climbing on my bed, and he was coming up. So my body's here, and he's coming up, and I could feel the covers getting tight, and I couldn't move, and he was getting closer, and he came right up, and he was coming up very, very slow, and I could see him, and it was so horrible. I could see him until he came here. I could see every detail in his face. I could see his eyes. His eyes were yellow. So the most thing that I can remember was the yellow eyes. Now these eyes were like piercing yellow, like that. Actually, see the yellow there that was just there? It was like that, you know, like. There will be images popping up on this video as well, so you might not see what I'm pointing to there. Can always remember the yellow eyes, and I always remember how terrified I was. I was so terrified. I woke up, like once they disappeared, the bed was soaking with sweat, and I mean really badly soaking with sweat, like you've just had a really bad nightmare, you know. And I thought it was a nightmare. And I phoned my mum the next day. And because of everything I had just been through, my head wasn't in the right place either. I was vulnerable. I really was vulnerable. And I phoned my mum and I says, I think I'm depressed. Mum. And she says, how? I says, because I keep having all these things at night. And this red man, he's visiting me. And he's climbing up my bed, and Mum, I can feel him climbing up my bed. And he's in my face, and I can see his eyes, and I can see everything about him. I can actually feel his breath breathing on my face. And now I get emotional about this because that spirit is horrible. Horrible. I've never came across one like it in my life. So then I went to the doctors and I was prescribed antidepressants and stuff because I really did think that there was something wrong with me. I didn't think that, I just thought because of everything I had been through, I had been through a lot of trauma and things, I thought, well, maybe I need something to kind of take me away from this, because I can't deal with this. I can't stay myself and see this red man, right? And so everything was fine for a while and things like that. Actually, I never seen the red man for a while, and that was fine. I got on with my life, had my son, you know, moved into another house that I'm still in just now, so I've been here ever since, you know, and opened up to my spiritual gifts, and at this point I was more confident, I wasn't vulnerable anymore, I knew what I was doing, but I still didn't know about that side of things back then until obviously I opened up, learned a lot, like I've learned a lot doing this, you know, and then it started, like, everything started falling into place. What happened in that last house, like the house years ago. So I was sitting one night and I had two friends that was in the spiritual field as well. And I says to them, I was actually talking to one, and I says to her, I'd love to go back there. I'd love to take you there. Because at the time we were doing ghost hunts and investigations and things, and I went, that place, I don't want to go back, but I would like to go back and cut the ties now. I'd like to go back, and now that I'm more protected now that I know what I'm doing, now I'll be able to handle it. Like, I couldn't handle it back then, but I can handle it now. And I did. I looked it up, and the man had actually changed it into a kind of hotel, a bed and breakfast, sorry. So he had changed it into a bed and breakfast. So it's not the same as what it was when I was there, but it's the same building, it's the same shape and stuff. But this building was really, really old, you know. This building's been there for a long, long time. And where it was associated, the town, and I can't give too much away because the owner of that house didn't really want people kind of knowing that it was haunted, you know, so I couldn't give that much information. In fact, before I go into what had happened, there was actually a woman that had moved in to the bottom house. She had moved in with her children. She had quite a big family, and there was something that had happened that she had took me into the house for my safety. Didn't want to be in that house, but she took me in there for my safety. And so while we were talking and things, I asked her, I says, I don't want to scare you, but have you seen the spirit in here? Have you seen that man? And she was sitting with another man, there was two of them, and she just looked at the man. She went, no way. She says, I've been on camera on like her laptop and things, and she says, and it walks past behind me on the camera. And when she told me that, every hair on my leg stood up, like with my body, you know, like, because at that time I was like, I thought it was just me. I thought it was just me. So I always had that in my mind, you know, like I always did have a part of it on my mind, you know, like, was it that, was it this, you know, like I had a lot of questions. And so I knew, I never ever seen that woman again, never ever seen that woman after I moved out. And so that's when I had my spiritual friends, and I says to her, I says, oh, I'd love to take you there. I'd love to go back. I'd love to see what I pick up now. I would like to see what I get in that now, you know, like it's not somewhere I wanted to actually really go, but I felt that it would have helped a healing part of myself as well. So we went, and we took two. And when I went in there, I had already told one of them the story of the red man before we went in, but I didn't tell the other one, right? Never told the other one. Now, the female that I went with, she felt sick, she felt anxious, she didn't like that house, she couldn't settle in that house. And the male that we were with said to, because he was out in the hall while me and the female were doing an investigation on our own, because we thought, well, maybe if we do it on our own, then it might intimidate us, which it did, which I'll get into that. You know, it was scary. But he was out in the hall, and while he was out in the hall, the middle room that we could never ever get in, when the man stayed there, we had access to that room. That was terrifying. It says, I already told her about the red man before we came. But what I had picked up on is there was, at that time actually, when I had went, I never seen the red man the last time we had went there, right? But I'll get to the story when I seen him again. I actually seen him again. But it was a black one that I'd picked up on. And oh my goodness, he was a bit scarier in a way. Where the only way I could tell you that he looked like was Jeepers Creepers. It's the only way I could describe this other demon in that house. So I was picking up on the tall dark one, the shadow man he's called. I picked up on the black demon, and my friend at the time picked up on the red demon. Now, what we did pick up on at that time was there was witchcraft and things like that done in that house before, well, a long time ago, and that's why it ended up, there was a portal. But when we were sitting in the room doing the investigation on our own, the two females, and he was out getting intimidated by the red man, we were on the bed and it was scratching the walls and everything next to us. Now on the chair across from us, we had two K2s sitting on the two chairs, and we were like, flash that one, and it was flashing it, and we were going, we'll flash that one now, and it was flashing that one, you know, like it was flashing the cat balls, it was doing everything we were asking it to do, it was communicating with us, to the point where it was telling us it was coming for us. We shit ourselves, and that's when we called the male back in. When the male came back in, he was like, leave my girls alone. You know, and I think that's how it started, and I'm pretty sure it was either before that or after that he seen the red man, you know, like, and that's what he says, I went in there, a big boy came out a little boy. He never ever experienced anything like that. On the other hand, my female friend didn't like that house at all either. So we had left that house and done an investigation, and it was all to do with witchcraft, the portal had opened and stuff, but we had actually realised while we were in that house that it wasn't a psychic or medium that could have done anything for that house. It would have been more like a priest or someone that was higher up than what we were, you know, like we realised it was too powerful for us, far too powerful for us, you know. So when I shut the doors, I sealed it and cut ties and says you can't ever intimidate me again and things like that. I thought that was fine, you know. I came home. Now my male friend, we were on the phone the next day, right? But that night anyway, I went into my partner. Now again, the red man was standing at the side of my bed, because I don't have a bottom bit in my bed for where my room is, you know, like, so I don't, like, can't stand at the bottom of my bed. He was standing next to my bed. Again, I was awake, I could see him, but he didn't crawl on my bed this time, he just stood and stared. I was so terrified. I was so terrified, because I was like, if I brought him back, have I brought him back here? And I was so scared. And to the point where I went into my partner and he went, holy shit, you know, like, you're soaking. I says, I know. And he's like, you okay? And I went, I couldn't talk. I couldn't talk with terror, you know, like I could not talk. He says, what's up? What's up? I said he was at my bed. He was standing at my bed. He was standing at my bed, right? So my partner had to stop what he was doing to come to his bed to give me a hug to go to sleep, because we had done an all-nighter the night before. So we were exhausted, you know. And but the thing is, this thing wakes you up and then lets you know, well, it lets you know it's there, you know. And so then I had phoned my friend, well, phoned the both of them, to be honest with you. I phoned the both of them and I says, I had the red man stand next to me again, right? And I was so uptight about it. I was so like, oh my goodness, oh my goodness. And actually, like, my male friend had says, I had something standing at the corner in my room. He said I couldn't see it, I could only see the outline of it. He said, and it was terrifying the bloody life out of me. He says I didn't want to go to sleep. He felt intimidated and everything else. You know, so I was like, oh my goodness, it wasn't just me, it wasn't just me, you know, like, and I'm like, I never ever want to go back there. You know, like, I think I thought, go back for peace, you know. Not they kind of spirits anyway. So there's obviously learning curves that everybody goes through doing these journeys and things. And like, I think my most reason of doing this wee video for you guys is you can't play about with these things. And I think that some people don't think, you know, if you're ever opening up to the spiritual world, make sure you do have your protection. Make sure you do know what you're doing, you know, like, because after that red man had visited me again and my friend, it's never came back, you know, like, I've never touched anyone that's never came back. I cut ties, you know, I give myself protection, I give the kids protection every night and things. Now, I've been to East Drive, the most haunted house in UK, apparently, and nothing compared to this house I stayed in. Now, my female friend had came to East Drive with me as well, and even she said, this is a way up to East Drive, a lot more than East Drive. She says, I would actually rather go back to East Drive and sit in there than sit in here. Now, we were kind of terrified in East Drive, you know, like, we were kind of terrified. I was actually quite calm, actually. I was pregnant, I shouldn't have been, but, like, in there, pregnant, I mean. So, like, she was terrified in there, and I always remember she says to me, how are you so calm? But I don't know why I was so calm in East Drive, but usually I used to get kind of anxious and kind of nervous, you know, because it was night time coming, you know, like, but that house, didn't matter if it was during the day, it didn't matter if it was at night, you know. And I always remember in that house, I took a lot of panic attacks. I couldn't control myself, you know, like, there was so much that happened in that house that I could never ever forget, to the point I was taking panic attacks in taxis and crawling up my mum's stairs in that house. You know, like, when you think back, you think maybe it was all in my head, you know, like, that's what I thought. But in reality, we were in a house with demons in them, you know. I opened up my spiritual gift and didn't even realise I opened myself up to be vulnerable at this time, you know, like, so if you're ever going to, like, groups, sessions, make sure you close yourself down. Make sure you've got protection. These are questions you have to ask. These are things you need to know about before you involve yourself. Because other people's actions are not always what it should be, you know, like they should be giving you protection, they should be doing it. Not all of them do that, you know, so they're clearly not caring about what people go through after these sessions, some of them. And again, maybe I went to an advanced class, maybe I went to something that was supposed to be people that were already open. I really don't know, because like the way he threw me in to just read people, then yeah, that's what I feel now, that it was more an advanced class rather than me going in as a newbie and not understanding. But I went back to that house and I understood what was in it. The healing part for me was, it wasn't me, you know, like it wasn't me. And I think that's what I had to go back and see myself, by taking other mediums, other psychics with me, to experience it with me, so that I knew I wasn't losing it back then. So that I knew what I had experienced was real. That's why I went back. I didn't intentionally go back to put myself in danger. I went back as a part of understanding, if that makes sense to you. But it was more an understanding thing for me, of what was actually in there, what happened in there, and how it was there as well. And I thought maybe we could close portals, maybe we could have helped that house, you know, like if there was something there before we went. That's what we discussed, to then realise there was nothing we could have done. There was nothing we could have done. There was other spirits there as well. We seen other spirits. Me and my male friend at the time, we seen the exact same woman as well, where she had a halter neck up, and it was like a kind of lace. You know, we seen a little boy as well that was in that house as well. And I never told my male friend any of this until afterwards. And then that's what I was telling him, that my partner, ex-partner at the time, had actually found the little boy's trousers up in the loft. And in that house there used to be, they've replaced all the windows and stuff like that, but at the time they didn't. It was the old windows, as I was talking about. There was 2 windows in that room, and the room that we were in, and the one that kept on slamming all the time was on this side. But there was this other window that was at the back of our bed that never ever opened. We could never get it opened. But it had a massive coin sitting on the ledge, and it had an old shoe, right? So we always found it weird, like, I want that coin. It's like a bigger, the only way I can describe it is like, well, I'm saying American coin, because I don't even know American coins. So to be honest with you, I don't know what this coin was, but it was a big coin, and it was an old coin. So my ex-partner at the time, he wanted this coin, but for the life of day, he could not get that window open. He tried absolutely everything to get that window open and couldn't. So we had to leave, well, he had to leave without the coin. But it's just a bit of awareness as well, that it's not, we do face horrible, scary stuff when you open up, or you can be vulnerable, you know, like if you're like, some people can have a journey and not really see much evil or anything like that. But as I said, like, I protect myself from seeing evil now, but at the time when I opened up, I didn't know how to. So it was just about an insight, guys, of like opening up and being careful and actually understanding what you're opening up to, you know, like, and just knowing all your protections and everything that you need to know before you jump in. Some people jump in and think, well, I could just play with these cards. I don't need to give myself protection. I don't have to do this. I could read them. It's not the way it works. If you pick up a pack of cards, guys, and you just start shuffling them and just start giving me cards without protection, you're playing with the devil. The devil will give you... The devil will be like, do you know what? Yeah, I'll give you what you want, but I'll take back in return. But if you've gave yourself protection and you're working all love and light, then you're working with the love and light. But if you don't know what you're doing and you're playing with devices and you're not giving yourself the right protection, you are letting in things, unwanted, horrible things into your life. I just wanted to kind of share my story, get my story out there and show you how easily it can be to be possessed. For a long, long time, as I said, I always thought it was spite. To then going back, visiting that house, to coming out of that house and realising you definitely were possessed. I was lucky enough to just want out of that house. I was actually lucky enough that me and my ex-partner had split up. Because whatever would have happened after that, I don't know. Now, I mean, this is the little things that you might not even expect that would have happened after all that, after we moved upstairs. Like his bike going on fire and everything outside the close so we couldn't get out. There was loads of things that put us in real danger with these demons. And I don't think a lot of people understand what they are playing with, or because at the time I didn't know what had happened, you know, like I wasn't sure on what was happening at the time. So it's just to give you an understanding, guys, that sometimes these things are not to be played with, because it could have been a lot worse than what it really was.